Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hope everyone is having a good week so far. Happy Wednesday. We're only 2 days away from December, 2 days if you count today as well, which is insane to think about how fast this year has gone by. Very happy to be here today. Thank you all for joining us on finding the perfect match, our six webinar series happening now in 2023 and flowing into 2024 that aims to help your sales teams and to an extent your marketing teams as well find out how they can transform how they operate and transform their sales performance in 2024. My name is Maria Christoforidou. I am the consulting team lead in EMEA at Habl. As part of my role, I work very, very closely with enterprise clients who are looking to also transform their marketing operations, as we said, but always with a focus of aligning marketing and sales. So today, I'm very lucky. You can hear me. Oh, Shireen, can you hear me okay? You can hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Can everybody else hear me? If you can give me a thumbs up or a message in the chat. Loud and clear. Great. Eva, maybe check if there's something off with the settings. I don't know if the speakers are off or, well, let's sort it out. I'm here. We haven't started yet, so all good. No worries at all. These things happen. As I said, my name is Maria. I'm going to be the host today. As you can see, I'm not alone. We've got Shireen on the call as well, I'm going to introduce in a second. But we are here today on our second webinar as part of our Perfect Match series. So we've already had our first webinar that took place on the 15th of November, where we talked about marketing and sales working in harmony. We looked at strategies on how to reduce the friction between marketing and sales, some insights as to how to overcome those blockers, and try to increase the overall revenue generation. Now, today, we're looking at lead management and tracking, but as you can see, we've got 4 more webinars coming up, with one more happening in 2023 in 2 weeks' time about sales forecasting and reporting with AI, which is a very exciting one, with our CEO, Anne Roberry-Brown from Cluster, who is a forecasting SaaS tool, and we're going to talk about that in the end a little bit. That's going to be our last webinar for 2023. And then we have 3 more webinars happening in the new year around sales process standardization, data management, and time management and productivity. That last one, as you can see, it's no coincidence that it's happening on Valentine's Day on the 14th of February, as this is the perfect match after all. Before we get started, for those of you who may not be familiar, if this is your first time being at one of our webinars with Habl. Habl has been around since 2012. As we can see, we are what we call a HubSpot Elite Partner, or as we like to say, a triple Elite Partner, which means we work very, very closely with HubSpot. We have worked with hundreds of clients to help them successfully implement HubSpot, but our knowledge and expertise goes beyond HubSpot into consulting. So we're able to support clients, mid-market to large enterprise organizations around the world, overcome any challenges they have around marketing, sales, or service, and more recently, operations or e-commerce. We like a good challenge. So if you need support, we're here to help you. And we've got offices all around the world, as we can see there, in the UK, US, Canada, Germany, Belgium, Singapore, and South Africa. And we've got a very diverse culturally team, I would say, with employees from 14 different countries. So that's a little bit about us, but we are here for a specific reason. And that reason is to talk about lead management and tracking today. So I'm going to hand it over to the wonderful Shireen, who's going to walk us through her insights as to how we can properly set up our lead management and help us get the most out of our tools. Shireen, over to you.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks, Maria. So exactly that. What we're looking at doing is running a series of a variety of different talks and really kind of taking on that journey of how best to be able to leverage your sales right from leads right through in terms of reporting and your data management. So just for today's context, I'm going to be talking specifically around leads in the context of what would say your sales qualified leads. Maria and my colleague had a conversation or had a webinar 2 weeks ago, which really spoke about that alignment between marketing and sales. And this is the next progression from there. Once the leads have come in, what happens to the leads? Often marketing will be able to generate the leads, and then sales would then be able to pursue them. So let's have a look at that courtship. I'm Shireen. I'm based in South Africa. I lead our sales consultancy, and we specialize. There's a team of 5 of us right around the world, and we work with a number of different enterprise companies across different industries and solve for a number of different sales challenges. And most recently, the reason I selected the lead management, because that's a key topic that comes up. How are we able to help our sales reps to be able to make sure that none of the leads are falling through the cracks? So what we're going to have a look at today is around those core principles. We're going to be looking in terms of how to build a robust pipeline by nurturing those connections. And then throughout the presentation, I'm going to be sharing some tools and techniques. So how can we foster connections? What is at the heart of lead management? And this is really around building out trust. It's about creating a safe space, but also there's a little bit of chemistry around building and connecting with people. So how can we foster meaningful connections? What does that mean? How do we go about doing it? It all comes down to active listening. So as sales leaders, as sales reps, as people in relationships, we all know that listening is a key component, not listening to be able to respond, but actually listening to understand what is our client's pain point. What is it that they're saying that they're not verbalizing, and really kind of looking for those clues in order to be able to make them feel understood and really be able for you to solve for what they really need. And often sometimes clients don't necessarily can articulate that problem, and it's our role really to be able to listen and be able to assist them and ease some of that pain. I've just recently done a masterclass by Esther Perel, and she is a psychotherapist and focuses specifically around relationships, both in a personal capacity, but also in a business space. And I just preparing for this webinar, it just something that she had said and which resonated with me was that conversations are at the heart of relationships. We all know that having a deep conversation, having a real conversation, at the end of the day, makes you feel a lot closer to the person and you get to know each other a lot better. So really, I think it's about not only active listening, but it's about the conversations, the quality conversations that we have human to human. So the inverse of that is what is the biggest factor that breaks down connection? Lack of interest. We've all gone out for dinner or had a friend over or been disengaged, and you know how difficult it is to actually be able to form a connection if someone isn't interested. And just like in the dating world or in your relationship world, those moments of rejection, that lack of interest, that boredom breaks down connection. So how do we improve the probability of creating these successful conversations, to be able to have these deep conversations and really be able to build these relationships and partnerships? So I love this. This really kind of speaks to you. It's around, don't leave your coffee for too long and then be surprised when it's cold. And I'm not talking about coffee. So what am I talking about? Today, we're going to be talking about what is lead management and how are we able to improve our conversions so that the amount of work that we do as a sales person, being able to qualify a lead, taking them on that journey, taking them on that dance to get into a relationship, what does that mean? So when we have a look in terms of that definition of what lead management is, at the end of the day, from a business perspective, we are wanting to acquire new leads. We want to make sure that we are qualifying them. Wanting to make sure that they are a good fit. And we're needing to engage with them and build that relationship through quality conversations so that we can guide them through that buyer's journey. So what are some of the common challenges that we face around converting leads into customers? And I've chosen 4 key topics. There are many, but I think this really kind of talks back nicely in terms of our roles and the impact that have on our relationships as well. So I'll unpack each of them in detail, and then also share some tools and techniques and some tips that you can hopefully be able to apply after this webinar. So to kick off, we're going to be looking at our slow lead response times and what that is and why that's important. So in terms from like a number perspective, I think some stats always give like a really good view in terms of what is the benchmark, what is currently happening, how are we tracking to the averages that are out there. And the averages are really surprising. So in terms of that lead response, so how quickly a salesperson will contact a lead when they reach out. So they're interested, they're curious, they've flirted it with you across the room. How quickly are you able then to respond? So currently 27%, this is according to Forbes, that 27% of leads only get spoken to, which means that there's almost 70% of those leads that have been generated are not getting a call. Sales reps in general will make 1.3 times to try and call the contact. And the average response time is 47 hours. Now, when they asked consumers or the customer how quickly they expected someone to respond to them, the answer was 10 minutes. So it's taking almost 2 days for someone to respond to a lead. Now, the impact of that is that in order to be able to qualify a lead, you want to be able to be responsive. You want to be able to contact them within that first hour. And organizations that have been able to do that, they see a 7 times more likely to qualify that lead. They are able to contact that key decision maker and ultimately be able to convert them. On the inverse of that is that if you wait for more than an hour, your chances of actually just contacting that lead decreases by 10%. So dramatic results there in terms of if you can respond within an hour, you've got 7 more times of actually qualifying them, versus if you wait that hour, it's 10 times the chance of just even being able to contact them, never mind being able to qualify them. And a staggering percentage here is that whoever responds quicker will often then get that sale. So you need to, from a consumer side, if you're wanting some feedback, you're wanting some information, you're going to tend to go to the person that has actually answered your inquiry first. So how can we improve our response time? And there's a number of different areas that we are able to do that. And I think this is really important. I think in the world of technology that we have at our hands, you want to be able to prioritize your lead notifications. And what that means is you need to have rotation rules in place. Your team members, your sales reps, they need to understand the importance of being able to reach out and connect with the lead the moment they've raised their hand. You need to be able to track your speed to lead. So you need to be able to track those metrics, see where you are, and then be able to gauge that over time. Then also with that, set goals for your team. Have a look at where you're standing and then work towards a goal based on some of those stats and expectations from your customers. And then automate. There are a number of different tools and platforms where you are able to roll out automation. And I'm going to share a couple of examples of this with you. But ultimately, you don't want to have your reps remembering to manually follow up and to chase. You want to be able to automate as much as possible in order to be able to get that response time down. And across the literature, it's ideally under the 5 minutes. And in that case, you have to leverage technology. So just in terms of one of the suggestions here is having a look at what that lead response time is. We work very closely with HubSpot. We roll out HubSpot as our preferred CRM with our clients. And part of the work that's rolled out is really being able to have out-of-the-box reports and dashboards that the sales rep and the sales leads and the organization is able to have a look at and be able to track real time. And this is just an example of one of the reports that I've pulled through our demo portal. And you can see over here that you have a number of different analytics tools. And one of them here is around your lead response time. And you can engage in terms of your different reps. You can engage in terms of your teams to be able to see how is the different teams performing in terms of response and how are your individuals. Me being a salesperson, I was really competitive, so I was glad to see that it took me 12 seconds to respond. But as I said, this is a demo portal. And then you're able to drill it out a little bit further as well in terms of getting those metrics. So being able to have a look in terms of the number of contacts, being able to look at who's been engaged, and then also who is unengaged. So really being able to have that view of how is your team performing and ultimately how are your leads being serviced. If we move on, there's also a pre-built dashboard, which is around call analytics, and that really tracks in terms of the meetings and calls that your reps are having. Again, these are all pre-built. You can go in, you're able to filter out by time, by types of meetings, by types of calls, by types of individuals. So all very customizable, but at a glance, really just being able to see, right, how are we actually responding and how quickly are we and who is contacting people. If we move on to another suggestion here, so one of our strategic partners is Aircall, and what they do is they provide conversation intelligence. They enable the sales rep to be able to make phone calls and be able to automate and manage communication right from within HubSpot, and really being able to have that information at their fingertips. So again, in order to be able to be responsive, in order to be able to make that connection and have those quality conversations, you want to be able to have that info at hand, and you want to have the tools to be able to reach out and make those calls. If we move on to the next one, so really that's in terms of being able to have, meet your customer, meet your prospect where they are. If you see that they are engaged and you want to be able to make the phone call, that you've got the tools to be able to call them then and there. The other area here is very much around, if you're flirting with someone across the room and you want to strike up a conversation and there's certain steps that you need to, or dance that you need to take, very similar in terms of being able to create a process or a flow or a journey of various steps that your sales team are able to follow, so that there is consistency across the different teams in terms of how each of your reps and how each of your teams are able to engage with new prospects or new leads that have come in. So within HubSpot, there are some pre-built sequences that you can build out, and some of them are pre-made. So I've just showcased here a couple of examples which allow you to very easily build out a series of different steps using a combination of automated emails. You can create tasks. You're able to link in your LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And really what this allows you to be able to do is that when someone reaches out and you're wanting to create a welcome email, you can then have these steps in place so that from your cell phone or from your computer, you're able then to quickly action a series of sequences automatically. What this also means is that you're also able to track which sequences or which set of steps or which paths are actually working, and you're able to analyze that data. And you're able to look at it in terms of, well, what are the results? What is actually happening? So again, really just out of the box dashboard where you can see how many of your contacts have been enrolled in sequences, how many have actually received emails, like how many have completed a sequence, how many have fallen out, and what were those results. And you can see here, this is an example from one of our portals, is how many contacts have been enrolled, what is the meeting rate, what is the reply rate, and how much revenue is actually being closed based off those sequences and those engagements. You're then also able to drill down a little bit further, and you're then also able to see by sequence as well as by sales rep of what kind of results they've had what kind of feedback you can improve on or change or build on. Something else that's just rolled out very recently within HubSpot is that, like you would do in your marketing campaigns and being able to test which your creator, be able to do your A/B testing, be able to run those tests. We can now do that with sequences. So you are then able to enroll a targeted audience and be able to see which version you see the best results. And that's really powerful in terms of understanding perhaps the tone or the frequency to be established right from a sales enablement perspective. What is working and what can we test out, and being able to run those experiments. And here you are able then to view it at each of the different steps. So let's say you had an automated email followed by a call, followed by a task, followed by a LinkedIn request. You can then see where that drop-off is happening, where people are converting maybe into a meeting, or where they're falling out. So that really allows you to be able to have tangible data to make decisions. If we move on to our next factor, and this is really around that where you've now gone to the effort, you've been able to reach that particular lead, and you're now wanting to, you've set up a meeting with them. So how can we ensure that there is a greater show rate? How do we prevent our potential lead that's come up to a certain point, you've dazzled them, they're ready to now have that conversation, for them to actually show up? We all know there's that all dressed up and nowhere to go. So there's a lot of time and effort, both in terms of preparation, both in terms of having that call. So you want to really make sure from your sales team to make sure that those scheduled meetings actually perform, and being able to track that. So how can we do that? And I always say, like, you've got to make it easy to do business with. So you really want to meet them, and this is why I like to kind of like use the analogy of sales and dancing. Like, you need to lead the way sometimes. You need to take the steps, you need to make it easy, and you need to be able to dance at the rhythm of the potential lead. So you really want to be able to have flexible meeting options. You want to be able to allow them to choose a time that's convenient for them, to choose a platform that they're comfortable with. So whether that's on Zoom, whether that's in person, whether that's a phone call, but really making it as easy as possible for them to actually show up and in a place that they feel comfortable with. You also want them to be able to update the status. So whether it is they want to reschedule, or perhaps they need to cancel, or very recently, from a HubSpot perspective, you're now able to schedule a meeting and then also invite your friends or invite other colleagues to the meeting. So you want to be able to have that flexibility where the lead is able to extend that invite to one of their colleagues. Friendly reminders. So we all get busy, we all get caught up in meetings. So really just that automation point, being able to have that reminder, whether it's an SMS reminder, whether it's in the email reminder, to be able to go, right, we're meeting, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, looking forward to seeing the next 10 minutes, but really having that as an additional touch point. And that goes again from like a relationship side, like having that, being thoughtful, being considerate, being mindful of that time and that presence. Being able to have that communication preferences. So with Hubble, we've got team members around the world who can speak a number of different languages, and very similar, being able to understand exactly where your lead is, where in the world they are, and how best you can meet them there. Being able to use personalization, really making it as personal as possible. So yes, you can have your sequences, you can use your personalization tokens, and there's automation around that, but you can also use it in a way that allows you to be able to add your own personal tidbits to it, as well as make them feel like it's not necessarily a automated email, but something that's come from you, from that one-to-one. And then importantly here, this is an area that's really powerful, but being able to go, okay, right, what kind of meeting types are leading to conversions? What kind of meeting types am I spending most of my time with? Am I doing a lot of discovery calls? Am I having a lot of client relationship calls? Am I having a lot of presentation calls? And then what that outcome is, like, is there a no-show? Was it a connect? Like, So yes, you could be having a target and having a goal of 100 calls for the week, but what is the outcome? What kind of results is it leading to? If we then move on to our next area, and this talks back to data silos. Really, we all know, like, poor communication. We've spoken about how connection and conversation is critical in terms of building relationships and trust and partnership. But at the same time as well, like, you need to make sure that you have a good idea in terms of getting to know that person, but being able to create great experiences, being able to create memorable experiences, and being able to have a conversation, so to be reachable. So how can we do this? And here it's almost like, if you think about, you've been perhaps chatting with someone and you've now arranged for this date, and now they show up and you've now booked for a steak restaurant, and you haven't done any of your investigation, and perhaps your date is a vegan. So you need to make sure that you've got that preparation. So without stalking them or going too much into detail, you can do a little bit of digging to get that context ahead of the call. And that's really where it comes to that preparation with that lead. So get to know a little bit about the person, get to know a bit about their industry, get to know a little bit about their company, what's currently happening in the news around their company, have some invested interest and conversation that you can have ahead of your call. You can also have a look in terms of some of the analytics tools to see how they've already engaged with your brand or your company. There's a number of different platforms, and I'm going to share a couple of examples of that. And then take the lead. So here again, you've got tools, you're able to create playbooks, how-to guides. And I think this is also really important for perhaps new starters or new salespeople that have joined a company, or there's a new product that's launched, or there's a new service that's rolled out. And really being able to have those playbooks on hand that the salesperson is then able to use, so that they have the right data at hand, that they're able then to have those good quality conversations and create that great experience and make that person feel safe. You're also wanting to make sure that you can capture all your key information. So if you've had your call and the lead has shared some key insights, make sure that that is captured and documented so that you've got that. There's so much to remember. There's so much happening in life. Time goes by and you can't remember, you can't find your notes. So make sure that that's centralized in your CRM, and that you're able to access it, and that your other team members are also able to access that information. You're also then able to capture what your next steps are. And that a lot of the time with tools like Aircall and with HubSpot, those your conversations can be transcribed, and you're able then to capture that information really easily and really readily. And then I think the follow-up. So, in the old days, you would then send a thank you email, thank you letter, a handwritten letter, or perhaps send some flowers. You want to be able to do that follow-up. You want to be able to let that person know that you have a solution for them, or you want to follow up next info. But again, you're taking the lead, follow up, and sometimes you need to follow up several times. So if we have a look in terms of some of the AI tools that are available and support that is available, I've selected here in terms from ChatSpot, and I'll show you a few others as well. But this is an incredible resource that is part of all the HubSpot plans. And what it allows you here to do, and I've just given a couple of examples here, is as part of that context of about to go into that call, you're able then to very easily be able to research that company, or you're able to find out a little bit more information about them being in the news. And then you've got that context, that conversation starter that is literally right here. You can then be able to find some information. If you move on over here, again, as another example, you also, from an automation side and being able to respond with speed, you're able to have sales emails. So you are then able to use AI to assist you with being able to send out an email, to be able to perhaps your maybe like English isn't your first language, or you find that your tone can sometimes be very abrupt, and you can then be able to use AI to help articulate your email or condense your email or rephrase your email in a way that is going to, it may have the biggest impact. You're able to do professional biography, and there's a number of different tools out there that you can use as well.
And if I can add to that, Shireen, sorry, just to interrupt for a second. It's also important when we're thinking about these email templates to not think of them as set in stone, right? So this is something that should always be progressing and being updated based on the feedback that you're getting from the responses of your prospects, you know, if it's working or if it's not working. And furthermore, with all the tools that you're presenting to us today, I think it's also important to consider how you can personalize those emails with the insights you have, because just having the information and having that sit in a contact record, it's no value of anyone. It's how you use that information. And very fairly so, you spoke about, you know, capturing that information and building that profile. I also find sometimes, because we're all human at the end of the day, I find that as well, maybe capturing some of the, or remembering, maybe not capturing, but remembering some of the personal information also of the person you speak to. You know, we're always on Zoom. Someone might mention the name of their dog or something. I feel like it shows that you're doing that active listening that you spoke about at the beginning. I'm not saying it should be in a sales template, but it can definitely be brought up in a sales conversation as something for you to remember.
Exactly. And we all find sometimes you look at the email, you're about to send an email and perhaps you've had a really big workshop, or you've had a report and you now need to send an email. This can just allow as an initial framework for you to be able to start that conversation, and then definitely be able to customize it and personalize it and bring a bit of yourself into that. So yes, number of different tools that are available, and also how it integrates in terms of whether it's in your HubSpot, on your record, or whether it's from your mailbox, and being able to quite quickly be able to send an email without spending a huge amount of time necessarily in terms of drafting that up. All right. Then the next part, again, talking back to that context. So often, you know, perhaps someone has reached out, it's your first conversation that you're having with them, and you are preparing for your call, and you want to kind of get a little bit of idea in terms of like how familiar are they with your brand, what kind of activity have they had, and you're able to see here on your record at a very high level in terms, I've just used myself as an example here, but you're then able to get a view in terms of, you know, how often have they visited your website? What pages did they view? What kind of social media engagement have they had with your organization? And here it gives you really at a glance, if you're about to go into that call, it just gives you a little bit of a sense in terms of how familiar they are with you, and potentially what kind of angle or approach that you can take. If you build on that a little bit more, Hotjar has just recently integrated also with HubSpot. And what this allows you to be able to do is also be able to see, especially if you're in the SaaS business, or you're getting a lot of website leads coming in, is ahead of a call, and as part of that preparation, is actually to be able to view the recording of how they've navigated your website. What kind of pages did they spend time on? Were there any rage clicks? Like, were there any frustration points? And be able to make some level of assumptions or some sort of context around it, but being able to give you a little bit more insight than just going in completely cold and not having that context. So that's something that's and another tool and another aspect. There's many out in the market, but it just kind of gives you like a good idea. And then very exciting from a LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And this hasn't been released yet. It's coming, I think next year sometime, I think early next year, is around the Sales Navigator. So instead of having, as a sales rep, needing to move between your Sales Navigator and then HubSpot, that information will be able to be pulled into the record as a CRM card, so that you're able then, again, everything's consolidated in one place. You get that context about the person that you're about to speak to, and be able to capture those notes and messages and meetings all in one space, which makes it a lot smoother and easier. All right, moving on to red flags. There's time is precious. We don't want to have to waste a time on, not necessarily, I put bad in brackets, but you want to be able to spend your time and attention on quality leads that have a high intent, that fit your ICP, that are have shown some level of intent or some sort of interest from that side. So often, I think from like a sales side, we firmly believe that person, we hold on and we think it's going to convert. But there comes a time and a place where you actually need to be able to look at who are your leads, which are your cold leads, which are your warm leads, and how you're going to approach them, and where do you invest your time. And this is really around it. It's about being selective. We've got tools that can assist us from a time and productivity, and that's a webinar that I'll be hosting on Valentine's Day. But really being able to be selective about which clients, as much as they're choosing you, you also choosing them. So how can we do that? And I'm going to share with you some of the different lead stages or lead pipeline, and how that can be managed within HubSpot from a prospecting workspace, and just kind of give you a flyover in terms of this. This is all in beta at the moment. It's rolled out and really exciting, especially for organizations that are wanting to manage their leads and being able to track that lead process before they actually convert into opportunities, or before a salesperson is actually going out and pitching and selling to them. So looking at that in terms of management of those leads and what that can be broken down in categories. So almost if you look at it as a high level from a category perspective, we spoke earlier about marketing and sales handover. Us as a sales reps, we get that lead, we need to qualify them. They're not ready yet in terms of being sold to or having the opportunity. But how do we keep track of a pool of leads that we are now needing to service? They're at different stages of their buying journey, and we need to have that space where we're then able to distinguish and segment which are the leads that are showing indication that they could be moving towards purchasing. So if you look at it from a category perspective, you would have your brand new leads that are coming in. You would then need to contact them, reach them, research them. And there are different stages. So almost if you imagine it like a pipeline, or like your different lead stages, you could then move your leads into this new pipeline. Then in terms of progress, you're working on them, you're still attempting to contact them. Like we said, if you've waited for more than an hour, you might your chances of contacting that person is going to dwindle by more than 10 times. So you might need to reach out and consistently try and get hold of them. So here you'd want to be able to track and review who is it that you're attempting to contact, and who is it that you have already connected to. What are your next steps? What needs to happen? What kind of follow-up needs to happen? So really being able to create different spaces for each of these different leads in terms of what are those next steps and where they're at. Then moving on, you've reached them, you've connected with them, but are they qualified? Are they qualified, or they're qualified, but they're not quite ready yet? So again, here you're then able to go, okay, right, who do I need to keep my eye on here? They're qualified, they're fit, they've expressed it, but actually they're just not ready to buy yet. So you want to be able to make sure through your personalized emails, your follow-up calls, that you keeping and you mindful of this bucket or this lead stage. And then in terms of your unqualified, so there often are those leads where they are just that it doesn't matter how much work that goes into it or what is sold, they're not a good fit, they're not buyers, and you can disqualify them. What's really nice here is in terms of being able to automate this. So you would have your status and you'd have your stages, but there's automation linked to it, so that you as a sales rep don't need to manually go in and change these statuses. As your sales rep has made contact and they've logged their call, the status will automatically be updated to connected. Or if someone has been qualified, you can set up automation that if someone is qualified, that a deal is automatically created. So there is that level of automation within the lead space within HubSpot. So that's also very, very new. And then just last point here around your disqualified leads. So there you can also create a mandatory option where you'd have to give a reason of why you're disqualifying a lead, so that at the end of the day, you're then able to share with marketing or with a team. You have this pool of leads, but why are so many being disqualified? And it allows you then to be able to look at the data and go, okay, right, what is the situation here? How can we change it? How can we improve it? And again, being able to look at how long is it taking for our leads to move through this stage? And is it because our team are needing extra support, or is there something wrong where we're needing to look at our process? What this looks like. So there is a dedicated workspace, and this is a great, almost like a landing page or a pane of glass, perhaps I would refer to it as, where you can have all your information pertaining to your leads that you're wanting to be able to land on and go, okay, right, what do I need to focus on for today or for this week? And at a glance, being able to see what you need to do, you're able to see all the tasks that would need to be followed up with, and over here be able to kind of see how many leads are you needing to work and what emails are happening here. So really at a glance, instead of having and switching between different areas within HubSpot, it's all centralized into one space. If we move on to our next one over here, so what that looks like from a leads perspective that I shared, and in terms of those different stages, you would have your contacts. You would then be able to identify in terms of who is hot and who is potentially cold or warm, and being able to segment that in terms of where you need to prioritize. This can be done both at a contact level as well as at a company level. And then over here, you'd be able to see what stage are they at. So you're able to group that. You're able then to have potentially, I know we used to run with our teams like every Friday, you would then, or every Thursday, you would then block out time where everyone then goes and contacts and prospects. And here's a pool or a list of all your leads, contacts in one central place that you can then refer to and be able to work from this space. By clicking on that, you would then be able to pull up playbooks. You'll be able to get all that contextual information about previous activity, any email comms, contact details are all living in one central place. So that makes it really super easy in terms of being able to manage those leads. And then just in summary, I mean, in terms of looking at that different workspace, so I showed you, and I realize it's quite small, but you're able to then to see your summary at a glance. You're then able to see in terms of who you need to contact, what is that queue, and systematically be able to work through your leads, both in terms of tasks and action steps. You're able then to manage it, you're able to run reports through it, and you're then also able to schedule meetings. So you're then able to really have a full view in terms of your calendar, your meetings, what's coming up, and what action steps needs to happen in order to be most efficient. And so, yeah, just to really kind of wrap up over here is that what I believe is that the heart of lead management is really around that fostering connections. It's about having that quality conversation and being able to align and attune with your leads in a way that will help with your conversions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shireen, for taking us through these insights. I think it's very easy when in both marketing and sales to get maybe a little bit confused or miss the point about where your focus should be. And maybe sometimes we focus too much on automation and what the tools can do, and we forget about these principles, as you said, like around fostering connections, about listening, having that human aspect into sales and building those relationships. Of course, the tools are very, very important as well in helping us automate and make these processes easier. But the active listening is something that you will have to do. And as I said, again, even if you're getting the insights, for example, from tracking a website, and you can see, what the prospects have been interested in, again, you have to put that effort and investment into bringing that back into your sales process. Wonderful. We've got quite like 15 minutes now to do a Q&A. If there are any questions from the audience, we would love to hear those to see those in the chat. I can't see any questions at the moment. Oh, just one question that just came through actually. So what is the one main area in which you see businesses failing short when it comes to lead management? An excellent question, really. So Shireen, what is the one area you think businesses see like they fall short when it comes to lead management?
So often, I suppose, like often with lead management, especially from a sales perspective, it's managing that time. It's being able to go, okay, right, I know I need to prospect. I know I need to keep my funnel full with potential new buyers. But often what I find is that your sales teams will be focusing on that low-hanging fruit. They're working on those opportunities that they wanting to close, and spending less time actually focusing on finding new business, nurturing that new business. So it's really about almost you say like wearing two hats. You can be actively selling and pitching and solving, but the other side is then also making sure that you are networking, bringing in and starting initial conversations, so that, let's say, you're a client, maybe it's a big spender and they reduce their spend, or they move on to a competitor. And then from a target perspective, you now needing to find that new business. So really, I think it's making sure that you have that funnel, keeping that funnel full with new prospective clients or leads.
Yeah, that's very important. I think another thing is consistency as well. And that was something I wanted to ask you. One of the challenges I've seen having worked with clients over these past few years is that sometimes, and we know salespeople, are stubborn. They have to be in this kind of area they work in. But sometimes we see this perhaps reluctancy to do things or change things or do things consistently as a group of salespeople together, right, on what's worked best for the company. How would you approach something like that, where someone would say, oh, but I have my own way of doing things. I'd rather pick up the phone. I don't really like writing down this information. How would you convince them that this is more efficient and more it will produce more results for you?
Always think, like, from a data perspective, you're then able to show those results. You're then able to showcase their results and their team results. And I think as soon as someone starts to realize, I think as salespeople, we're always busy. There's always something on the go. There's always a fire to put out. So if you have line of sight in terms of what those results are that you are achieving, not only from a financial side, but also being able to see how quickly am I responding to my leads, how many of those leads have actually fallen out, and being able to look at those data points and being able to go, okay, right, this is where I need to shift my focus. This is really where I need to shift my effort. So often it's really being able to take a look at the numbers. I mean, sales is, we always joke, it is a numbers game. So it's really being able to go, okay, right, this is the current situation. What can I do to improve that? And then being able to leverage the tools or leverage the system or the process in order to improve those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to, I think every salesperson has a winning mindset, right? You want to make the most out of the data you have. You want to close the most sales. So I think it's important then to understand that these tools can provide you with those insights to do your job better and be more productive and be more efficient and be better at what you do. It's not about trying to make everyone the same. You can still personalize, as we said. You can still have your own touch there based on what the prospect has told you. But using this, I think, yeah, it's the right way to go. There's also a question in the chat about the numbers you presented at the beginning, Shireen. So talking around the customers expecting a response within 10 minutes. It's a very good question. Do these numbers come from a B2C or a B2B space? And I will extend that question and also say, do you feel like the strategies and insights you presented today apply to both B2B and B2C sales teams?
So I need to check in terms of the first part, in terms of whether that was B2C or B2B. It was taken from Forbes. I'm happy to share the link as well. I mean, I think it is specific to different industries, but at the same time, I think as a consumer, you want that immediate response. You want someone to attend to you as quickly as possible. The need is real. That's why I'm reaching out, and I want someone to respond. So I think that kind of cuts across as a kind of across industries. I mean, if it's just an initial inquiry or initial conversation, yeah, sometimes quicker is better. So
yeah, especially if you're the one who has requested to speak to someone and you don't hear back from them, that can be so frustrating. I feel like that can change your whole perception about the brand and how you interact with them, and it can be quite damaging. I don't know how someone could get back from that, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, the stats, almost 2 days before someone responds. So, the demand of being able to order your groceries and getting delivered within an hour, or being able to order an Uber and they're there in the next few minutes. Like, we are conditioned to be able to get that instantly. So why, if I want to do business with you, is it going to take a week for you to come back, or 2 days? It's a long time in a world where things move really quickly. So especially from a lead response perspective, I think that is always something that one can focus on. And I think in terms of being able to have the tools that enable you to respond quickly is really important. So really being able to, on the go, like be able to do everything from your phone, being able to be reachable, be able to send the information, being able to access the correct information is really important, especially from a sales side. If someone's needing that information, they need to make that decision, that you've, as a salesperson, have that on hand.
Yeah. And do you think there's a difference? Because someone could say, well, we've acknowledged the email, right? We've automated a response that says, we've received your inquiry and someone will get in touch with you. Do you think that's enough, perhaps at least at the beginning, until you have the resources to be able to call them as well and make that personal call after that acknowledgement?
I think even if you're on a website and you can engage on the chat, whether that's with a live person or in terms of having that automated response. I think sometimes sometimes if you're needing that information, you need it immediately, and depending on what that inquiry is, just maybe that acknowledgement, yes, you've been heard, but then you want to make sure that person does follow up. So I think it's a balance depending on what it is that you are asking for. But it's about having that communication, having that response, showing that attention. I think that's what really makes a good salesperson.
Yeah, I think if we say it from a marketing point of view, right? If I approach this as well, I think that acknowledgement is important, because a lot of times you might even submit a form and not even know, if the company has received it, should you be expecting to hear from them? But I think, yeah, the personal call after that from the sales team makes the whole difference as to how that's being managed. Or it could be, as you said, it could be an automated response again from the sales team that looks personalized, that looks like a one-to-one email, but it is still providing that connection to the prospect. We've got one last question before we talk a little bit about the upcoming webinars. So another one of our attendees has asked, how can we tackle spam leads? And I think this is where both of us come in, right? Because if the sales team starts getting spam leads, then I don't think it's the problem just of the sales team. It's what is happening a step before that. On perhaps, is the marketing targeting the right audience? Or have we put the right, as we say, safety net on the website? For example, there are many tools that can help us when someone submits a form now, whether to use a CAPTCHA or whether to use an email validation tool. If that's what we're referring about spam, and we're talking about contacts that don't exist really, unless we're talking about leads that are, again, a bad fit. Can you tell us a little bit about how would you avoid having those bad fit leads. You touched on some of your slides already.
Yeah, so I think, and that's a good, I mean, it's a good point. Like, so it could be spam, it could just maybe not be a great fit. And I think that's really where it comes down to, there's a number of different strategies one could do, but being able to create that lead scoring that you had spoken about in last week's webinar. So being able to automate that and for the system to be able to recognize actually, yes, there's someone that's inquired, but actually they don't meet the requirements. We can see that it's spam email address. So you almost have that initial filter before it even comes into this to like the sales qualified lead, or in terms of becoming a new lead. I think that's really important in terms of being able to recognize that upfront. And also being very clear in terms of what is a spam lead, what is a poor quality lead, what is someone that's just maybe potentially curious, but you know, they might just be doing research. They're not necessarily going to be a customer, but they've engaged on your website, they've engaged on your platforms, but being able to have that quite clearly defined in terms of who is it that you're wanting to target, so that your sales reps are spending their time and attention on qualified or pre-qualified contacts.
Yeah, if anyone in the audience is interested, this is something, as Shireen said, that we discussed extensively in our first webinar that took place on the 15th of November. The recording is available online. You're able to find all the information on our website as well. And there we did talk about, as Shireen said, the lead scoring. We talked about the importance of getting feedback from the sales team as well. Because if you guys are getting all these bad leads and marketing has no idea and they're thinking, but we're generating leads, what do you know, we don't know about the quality, that's also something that can really affect your revenue generation. With that said, thank you so much, Shireen. But for those of you who are here, keep in mind, we do have 4 more webinars, very exciting topics coming up, especially the one that is coming up next, the last one for 2023 with our CEO, Darren Smith and Rory Brown from Cluster, who we recently partnered with. They're going to talk about real-world applications of AI in the sales process. They're going to look at sales forecasting and reporting. AI is obviously quite a trending topic at the moment, and I know everyone is talking about it, trying to understand how they can leverage AI. So I'm happy to say that the discussion is not going to be just theoretical and, you know, is AI good or bad, but it's going to be very much hands-on AI applications, how we can use predictive analytics, predictive lead scoring, everything that the sales teams need in order to be able to leverage this technology and be ahead of the curve. So that's our next one in December before we go off on our Christmas holiday. And then, as we said, we've got 3 more webinars coming up in 2024. So make sure you go to our website and register for those if you like to attend or if you like to receive the recording. We will be sending the link to the recording of the sessions. Jenna, if we can maybe send that to all the attendees here. I see it's being asked in the chat as well. I will share the link to our page where you can find, I've got it open actually, there we go. I just shared the link in the chat, so there you'll be able to find all the links to each individual webinar if you'd like to register, and all the recordings from previous webinars. Thank you everyone so much for attending and for listening to us. Thank you, Shireen, for walking us through this. This has been really an insightful process. And we look forward to seeing you all on the next one. So I'm not going to say Happy New Year yet or Merry Christmas, but I'll see you on the 13th. Thank you all so much. Take care.